This video is about the Samsung Galaxy A26. I'm gonna give you 8 solid reasons why you should consider buying it and 3 reasons why you might want to skip it. When you look at both the price and performance, the A26 is positioned right between the A16 and A36 in Samsung's lineup. But despite that, it's actually a well-equipped phone, as you will see soon. Also, it doesn't look cheap at all. In fact, it looks pretty good. Let's go through everything step by step, starting with the pros. First pro, the A26 comes with a 6.7-inch Super AMOLED display that's 0.2 inches bigger than what we had on the previous model. And since it's an AMOLED screen, you get vibrant visuals, solid color accuracy, and a display that's easy on the eyes. The bezels have also been trimmed out, with a screen-to-body ratio of 86.7%, a noticeable improvement over the 84.2 we saw on the A25. The Full HD Plus resolution is another nice touch. It's the same resolution used on Samsung's more expensive S-series phones. They will get crisp, clear images, nothing to complain about here. If you're after smooth visuals, the 120Hz refresh rate really helps. It makes everything from scrolling to video playback feel a lot more fluid and enjoyable. Another great feature is the 1000 nit peak brightness. For context, the iPhone 13 and 14 top out at around 800 nits. So the fact that this budget phone gets even brighter means that you won't struggle to see the screen outdoors even in direct sunlight. All in all, when you add everything up, the A26 delivers a solid display for a phone in this price range. The second pro is actually my personal favorite. It's thinner. Samsung made a noticeable effort to reduce the thickness across all their A-series phones, and the A26 is no exception. It's just 7.7mm thick. For comparison, the previous model, the A25, was 8.3mm. This slimmer profile makes a real difference when it comes to comfort. It's just easier to hold and handle throughout the day. When a phone is thinner, it simply feels better in the hand. Even though the A26 is slightly longer and wider, that hardly matters. We are already used to the large A-series dimensions. What really needed a change was the thickness, and I genuinely appreciate how slim the A26 is now. It's much easier to hold for long periods without feeling any strain. The third pro has to be the long software support Samsung provides. Right out of the box, the A26 runs Android 15 with One UI 7, the latest version, which is highly customizable, user-friendly, and I have to say, it looks really good. But what stands out is the support. Samsung now promises up to 6 Android updates, meaning the A26 should stay up to date all the way through 2030. On top of that, Samsung also includes 6 years of security patches to help keep your device protected from vulnerabilities. So if you're buying this phone now, it's fair to say it's pretty much future-proof. The fourth pro is about storage, and this is actually pretty interesting because it's a feature that's missing on the more expensive A36 and A56, the microSD card slot. The A26 still has it, so you can pop in a card and expand your storage by up to 2 TB, which is a really useful option. And while we're on the topic, it's worth mentioning that the base A26 model comes with 128GB of internal storage and 4GB of RAM. The higher end version goes up to 256GB of storage and 8GB of RAM. Still, I'm just glad Samsung didn't remove the card slot from the A26. It's a practical feature that a lot of people still appreciate. The fifth pro is another highly appreciated thing. The A26 definitely looks great, no question about it, especially this black version, which I personally like. But things get even more interesting when you look at the materials used. It now features Gorilla Glass Victus Plus on both the front and the back. That's a big step up from the A25, which only had a plastic back that felt a bit cheap. With these upgraded materials, the A26 no longer looks or feels like a budget phone. It's got a slick design, it's thinner, and it really feels like Samsung is heading in the right direction. And as a bonus, they've added IP67 protection. Not the weaker IP54 you got on the A16, but proper IP67, meaning that the phone can survive in water up to 1 meter deep for up to 30 minutes. If you ask me, these are serious build quality upgrades for the A26, and I definitely appreciate them. 6 Pro, decent cameras. Here, Samsung builds on what the previous model already offered, a 50MP main camera, an 8MP ultra-wide, and a 2MP macro camera. On the front, there's a 13MP selfie camera. The overall camera performance is quite good for a budget phone, though I'll be honest, the results aren't top tier. When you compare it to something like the more expensive A36, the difference is clear. That model definitely has better cameras. In fact, this decent camera point could have easily been a con if we judge it purely by comparison. But let's keep things in perspective. The A26 is a budget device, and for its price point, it does pretty well. It's kind of funny, just 10 years ago, we wouldn't have dreamt of getting cameras this good on a $200 phone. The A26 is absolutely capable of taking nice quick snaps on vacation or day-to-day moments, and thanks to the IP67 protection, you can even feel safe using it in less than ideal conditions. When it comes to video, you do get 4K recording at 30 frames per second, but only with the main camera and without stabilization. Here, the stabilization option is actually grayed out out in the camera settings. Still, it's nice to have 4K. You'll just need a steady hand, or you can stabilize your footage later using an editing software. If you're recording in Full HD at 30 frames per second, the A26 does offer stabilization, and that works on all cameras, including the selfie camera. All in all, the cameras produce good enough footage, and there's even super slow-mo, which slows things down quite a bit. It's actually pretty fun to use and can lead to some cool results. The 7th Pro is of course the performance. Under the hood, the A26 is powered by the same hardware we saw in last year's A35. That gives it a 15 to 20% performance boost for gaming compared to the previous model, the A25, a nice upgrade. That said, it's worth mentioning that if you go for the base version with 4GB of RAM, you might notice some limitations. It's still decent for everyday use, but having 6GB would have made a noticeable difference. The 8th Pro is the affordable price. At the time of releasing this video, the base model was priced around $250 and for everything this phone offers, that's a pretty solid deal. Considering all the pros we've gone through, the A26 delivers a lot of value for the money. So these were the good things. Now let's also look at the main cons. First one, the A26 doesn't have stereo speakers. This is a pretty major downside, and honestly, it's a bit surprising since the A25 did have stereo speakers. On the A26, sound only comes from the bottom of the phone. What that means is, if you're watching videos, you'll want to cup your hand around the bottom to help direct the sound toward you for a better experience. Second con, also related to sound, the 3.5mm headphone jack is missing. This is another downgrade. The A25 had a headphone port, but now, like all the latest A-series phones, the A26 doesn't include it anymore. It probably won't be a huge deal for most people since Bluetooth headphones are everywhere these days, but some users still prefer to use wired headphones. The third con, no video stabilization when recording in 4K. Like I mentioned earlier, there's no stabilization available for 4K video on the A26. When you record in 4K, the video stabilization option is simply turned off. The phone definitely has enough processing power to handle it, but due to market segmentation, this feature is grayed out. Stabilization is also unavailable if you record in Full HD at 60 frames per second. Of course, if you really want stabilized 4K footage, you can always stabilize it later in a video editing software, but that's an extra step and more effort. That's why the lack of stabilized 4K is a notable con here. Alright, so let me quickly recap all the pros and cons before I share my final opinion on the A26. On the pro side, we've got a 6.7-inch Super AMOLED display, a thinner profile, long software support, good storage options including a microSD card slot, improved build quality with an IP67 protection, decent cameras, solid performance, and an affordable price. On the downside, no stereo speakers, no 3.5mm headphone jack, and no video stabilization when recording in 4K. In conclusion, the A26 is a good budget phone that also looks great. If you're not a heavy gamer and don't need top-tier cameras, it ticks most of the boxes the average user would want. It's definitely better than the A16 and overall a solid choice in the budget segment. If you enjoyed this video, press that like button, and if you want to check out my review on the A16, just click on the video you now see on the screen. Take care, guys.